Welcome to Small Biz Life, episode 6, how to eat at home more without spending all your time planning and cooking. So it's actually kind of funny because I originally recorded this episode back in January before anything was going on, at least in our minds, with the global pandemic. But we decided to keep this episode because it is still incredibly important. If you think about it, we're cooking all the time now, and we're cooking with what we have, which is kind of what this episode is all about. So let me know how you are changing up the way that you cook, how you can implement these strategies, and I hope you enjoy the episode. Stay safe, mamas. Okay, so I know some of you hate cooking. I know some of you hate planning. I know some of you are tired of eating the same 2 things every single week. So in this episode, I am going to show you how to start to enjoy making meals again, how to add more variety into your meal plan, and how to save a ton of money eating at home. Okay. So what we do in our house, and listen, I'm going to put a link in the show notes to our Mother of All Time courses. And there's an expanded version of this in the Mother of All Time courses. There's also a whole bunch of other things about how to save time around your house. But this is one of the ones that I really like. I think, a lot of meal planning, there's lots of meal plan services out there and other things, but I think most people, they just kind of want to put it on autopilot, right? And that's why they subscribe to these meal planning services. All right, so let me tell you what we do in our house. And again, if you go to the show notes for this episode, which it would be smallbizmama.com/episode 4, that's episode with the number 4. You can sign up for the Mother of All Time courses, and in the video that includes the meal planning stuff, I show you my master meal plan. And essentially, my master meal plan is a list of all of the stuff that we eat on a regular basis. Okay. And I would say that the majority of those recipes, I would say probably at least 50% of them, I have the stuff on hand to make them whenever. Or I have most of the components to make them whenever. And so what I do that I think is a little bit different than most people is I kind of have this core set of groceries that I buy, right? So every week we buy onions and mushrooms and peppers and spinach and lettuce and cucumbers and tomatoes and bananas and apples and and whatever else. And I always have pasta and rice and couscous and quinoa, and various different kinds of grains. I typically in the freezer have, ground beef and stew beef and chicken and pork chops. And so I have these things, right? And so what I typically do, okay, I have this master meal plan. And my master meal plan currently has about 30 to 35 different meals on it. Okay. And so if you think about that, so we typically eat at home 6 nights a week, right? And so, and sometimes there are some weeks that we will, I've made chili this week and last week. The guys are kind of, the boys are in a chili mood. And so we made chili. We typically have some sort of pasta thing every single week. We typically have, something that's like Tex-Mex at least once every 2 weeks. So, there are kind of these themes that we go through in the house. And there's some things that, I I don't necessarily make, every month or every 2 months. Like, I think the boys wish I'd make meatloaf more often. Because they really like my meatloaf. And I probably, with tax season coming, I'm probably going to make a whole bunch and put them in the freezer. But so I have this master meal plan, right? And some things we eat much more frequently than other things. But I basically kind of did a brain dump. And I said, okay, what are the things that are easy to make and, or can be kind of adjusted? And what things do I typically have the ingredients to make? Okay. And so what I did is I just made this huge list, right, of stuff. So things like, meatballs, lasagna, like I almost went through like by country of word. So it's like, okay, all things Italian, baked ziti, lasagna, baked tortellini soup. And it's funny because it's like you almost do like word association when you're doing this. And I just kind of like went through and I made this humongous list of all the things that we eat on a regular basis. And so like I said, it was about 30 to 35 things. So if you think about it, so if we eat at home 6 nights a week, then that, if we made each of those things once, right, then that meal plan would get us through, 5 to 6 weeks of eating, which I think for most people, we're usually rotating meals through a lot quicker than that, right? So for me, I like that, right? So kind of do that, right? Like brain dump out all the things that you like to make, that you know how to make, and things that people in your house are going to eat. Put that all down on a master sheet. Now, if you're not there yet, like maybe you have like 5 or 6 things that you make really, really well, then write that down, okay? And then supplement with things like, grilled cheese and tomato soup. That's one thing that's on my list. My guys love the frozen meatballs from the Warehouse Club, from Costco or BJ's, right? You buy the all beef meatballs. They love those, right? You put them in the crock pot with some sauce and with a little bit of stock, and they plump up and they're beautiful. And my guys love them. So kind of think about it. It doesn't all have to be homemade. It can be mostly homemade, right? So make that master meal plan. Like I said, if you need inspiration, go to smallbizmama.com/episode4, sign up for the Mother of All Time courses, and you'll get my master meal plan. Okay. So then once you have that, then you want to make sure that you keep your pantry and your fridge stocked. And so, like I said, what we do, there's a lot of crossover, I find, in Italian food and Tex-Mex food, right? So, a lot of peppers, a lot of garlic, a lot of onions. We use a lot of tomatoes of all different sorts, pastas and rices and things like that. And so having the pantry and the fridge well stocked really, really helps. And then, because what I do, I don't have like a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday list anymore. What I do is I look in the house, I look in the pantry, I look in the fridge, I kind of have a list. I know what I've got the stuff to make, and I make something. And I determine what I'm going to make based off the amount of time I have, what I want to use up. So like right now I have chicken. So, we're going to have chicken within the next couple days. I pulled a brisket out of the freezer that somebody gave us. And so Jeff's going to smoke a brisket tomorrow. I know we're going to have leftover brisket right after Monday. So say, okay, well, what can I do with that? Um, it really helps when you also kind of understand, okay, I've got leftover this. What can I turn that into? And so that's one thing I'm just naturally pretty good at. If you give me brisket, I can make stroganoff with that. I can make enchiladas with that. I can make tacos with that. I can chop it up and put it into a meat sauce and make something Italian with it. Um, and so, kind of being able to like think out the box with your meals is pretty helpful. But if you have your master meal plan and you kind of identify, okay, what are common ingredients that we're going to need that we can use for a lot of different things? Let me make sure that I've got those in the pantry, the fridge, and the freezer. Then the other thing that I have is I have an oh crap meals list. And my oh crap meals list, that's my very quick meals. I have to get something on the table. So the oh crap meals list does include things like, you know, I've got hot dogs in the freezer. I've got, my family loves grilled cheese with soup. And so you know, I typically have stock. I typically have like organic tomato soup. I typically have tortellinis or egg noodles, something that I can make like um, a quick soup with some carrots, some celery, which again, those are things I always have. I always have carrots, celery, onions, and garlic. Put that in, cook that up. You can put some chicken in if you want. You don't have to. Put in some sort of noodle and broth, right? And that soup. Um, and so, something like that is really quick. The frozen meatballs are super quick. I always have um, I always have a package of Trader Joe's orange chicken in my freezer because I can put that in the air fryer and get it done really fast. I just have to make some rice in the rice cooker and poof, it's dinner. So those are kind of my oh crap meals, right? I always make sure that I have, spaghetti with tomato sauce is an oh crap meal, right? Um, it doesn't have to be complicated, but you should have a couple things that you know that you can get on the table within 20 to 30 minutes, right? And have a couple of those on hand all the time. That oh crap list. Okay. So it was kind of funny. So today, and I put like things I can dump in the crock pot are also considered oh crap meals. Um, so this morning we were going to make the brisket this morning and we woke up too late. Everybody slept in this morning. And so for us, we were like, all right, what are we going to do? So I'm like, oh wait, I've got ground beef that's already cooked in the freezer. That's another thing, pre-cooked ground beef, keep it in the freezer. I've got beans, I've got tomatoes, so I'm going to throw stuff in to make chili. And we had chili for dinner. So, kind of having that master meal plan, right? Having your pantry and fridge stocked, and then having a couple of those oh crap meals and making sure that you have all the components on hand. I don't think about planning our meals. The thing that we do, so I have a list on the fridge when we're running low on something that we're pulling out of the pantry or I'm pulling out of the fridge. Like there's a core list of stuff that I'm going to restock, right? It's like, okay, we're out of milk or we're running low on milk, we're going to buy milk. We're going to buy, we have 3 different kinds of cheese. Actually, we have like 5 different kinds of cheese in our fridge. We have a lot of cheese. But we have cheese, and if we're running low on a particular kind of cheese, we put that on the list. But I find like based off of this rotating list, this core list of stuff that we buy, I can typically, I would say I could typically make 40 things on my master meal plan list without buying anything special. And that's pretty awesome. It's just a reconfiguration of the ingredients and the spices that you put together, right? So, again, if you want to see my master meal plan that I put together, and some of the stuff on there's like hot dogs, right? Hot dogs with carrot sticks and celery sticks. That could be dinner. One, it's funny because one of the things that we said on the old podcast, the Small Biz Life podcast, is that the dinner does not have to be like a 5-course, 6-hour thing. It really doesn't. You can put your, you put your kind of line down in the sand, right? You say, this is what I'm trying to achieve with dinner. And then you make something that fits those parameters, right? So, when we buy hot dogs, I buy really, really good hot dogs. Okay. We always serve a vegetable with it, every meal has to have a fruit or a vegetable. And so if you kind of have your defining meal rules, that really helps, I think, because then you're just kind of checking off boxes, right? So for me, and this is me personally, right? I don't make the guys adhere to this. But I try to eat greens at least twice a day. And so for me, I'm trying to check off, okay, do I have something, do I have greens on the plate? Do I have something green on the plate? And so you got to kind of come up with what your rules are, right? I try to limit our sodium. So if I know that tonight we're going to have, because even a lot of the organic foods, if it's something that's jarred or canned, it has a lot of sodium in it, even if it's low sodium. So if I say, okay, I know we're going to have tomato soup tonight, I'm going to try to limit what we're intaking for sodium for the rest of the day. Or I'm going to make sure that we're having other things with it so that we're not filling up on the soup. So carrot sticks, celery sticks, other veggies, what can I kind of put into that, to kind of offset the sodium intake, or so that we can consume less of it, right? So, I think a lot of people, the idea of cooking and meal planning, like it just seems like it's this overwhelming thing, and it really doesn't have to be. Have those core things that you like to make, that are easy to make, and then you can always like introduce something new. There's sometimes that I'll try a new recipe that I find like on Pinterest or wherever, and that's really good, and that'll go into the master meal plan. That becomes a new thing that we add. But experiment, try new things when you feel like it. But if you're in a time where you've got lots of things going on, like we don't try new recipes during tax season. It doesn't happen, because tax season on its own is enough. But I've become really good at running this master meal plan and keeping us stocked up on these like regular things that we use. We used to eat out, like honest to God, we used to eat out probably 4 to 5 nights a week during tax season. And last year, and you figure Eric was only 1, and even the year he was born, we did really, really well. I think there were some weeks we ate out like twice a week, but for the most part, it was usually once a week. So you can do this. If you have questions, you can ask them in our Facebook group. You can ask us on our Facebook page. Go to smallbizmama.com/episode 4 for all the ways you can connect with us. Let us know where you're struggling with, and we can help you out with that. I'd also love to know what your favorite meals are. What are your go-to meals when you're super busy? I'd love to know that as well. All right, mamas, thank you so much, and I will see you next week.
Thank you for listening to Small Biz Mama with Kristen Ingram. If you'd like to learn how to create more margin in your life, please visit us at smallbizmama.com. That's smallbizmama.com.